Okay, shall we call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll read our school district's mission statement, grounded by our history. As one of the oldest publicly supported schools in Wisconsin, Mineral Point School District is the heart of a small community that educates and inspires our students for a bright future in a big world. Angie, can you take roll?
Bush,
Here.
Dunn,
Here.
Eisner. Here. Janetka,
Here.
Skelding.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here. Okay, we'll proceed to the filling of the vacancy of the board position. I'm going to turn it over to you, Mitch. I just want to thank all the candidates for putting their names in and being willing to serve the school district on the school board, especially given the last year we've had. So I really appreciate you willing to help us out. Mitch, do you want to take it from there?
Sure. Following your school board policy 133, you would start with the board needing to make a decision. Unless, this is number 5 under that policy, unless a majority of the board approves the use of a roll call or voice vote, the selection of an employee to fill a vacancy will proceed with a signed written ballot. So the school board would need to determine whether or not you wish to use a voice vote or you wish to use a signed ballot to make this selection.
Why don't we hear from the candidates, and then we can make a decision on how we want to take the vote.
I could, before you go to the candidates, then just so they're all well aware. A candidate, we've done a nice job editing this policy down a little bit. When we first started, it was 7 rounds of voting. Now it's down to no more than 3 rounds. If after 2 rounds of voting, no candidate has received a majority of the board vote, so a successful candidate would need to receive 4 votes from the school board, from the sitting board. You would have a first round if there's no clear majority. Then we'll go to a second round of voting. If after 2 rounds, the candidate has not received 4 votes, the school board will adjourn into closed session to discuss any of the remaining candidates' qualifications. Upon returning to open session, there are additional questions to ask the candidates. The board members may ask any one or all of them. A third vote will be taken at this time. If there's still no candidate that receives a majority of the vote, a random drawing will determine the winner. A candidate must have at least 1 vote in order to proceed into any subsequent round for filling this position. So if someone does not get a vote in the first round, they are no longer a candidate for the vacancy at this point in time. And then for that random process, a nominee has to be supported by at least 2 board members. So they would need to have at least 2 votes going into that random draw. And then their name would be put into the purple jar of selection to determine who the winner would be. So that's where we sit right now for the process.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So now we'll give each candidate 3 minutes to make a statement in support of their appointment to serve on the board. The board may ask questions of 1 or more of the potential appointees. And we'll go ahead and start. The ballot has an alphabetical order, so I'll just go that way. We'll start with Eric Bakken. Eric, if you just want to kind of stand.
Maybe come forward.
Go forward. Can you stand like right behind me? Sure. So everyone at home can see and hear you.
All right. I get the whole 3 minutes.
You do.
Super. This is my second time appearing in front of this group. Last time I didn't get selected, and I had the dubious honor of drawing the name out of a hat. That process being what it is, I hope that we don't get to that point today. And should my name end up in the hat, I hope it doesn't come out and we withdraw my name. The only reason I'm really here is I feel like it's out of a sense of duty. I feel like I can bring some perspective and maybe a little clarity to what I think a lot of people feel is a lacking of it. So I'm not a very well-spoken person. I'm not a public speaker and that stuff. But I do like to consider myself open to thought. I'm an advocate for the kids. You all know, if you know me, how well we're invested in the school district. We've had kids in and still do for the moment. And of course, my wife teaches here. One caveat I would say is that I would never seek to vote on anything that has a direct effect, specifically on her compensation. I would want to reserve the right to speak on that topic, but I would never vote. Really, that's about it. I just want to offer my services, and most of you know me, so you can make up your mind how you feel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next is Christy Cole.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight and also for helping to guide our community through what have been probably two of the hardest years in this position. I'm going to assume that all of you have done your homework and read the statement that I submitted last week with my qualifications. So I will not linger on that, but I want to say that among other things, I'm an independent hairdresser. I have a small private studio, and I have the privilege of seeing a very broad section of our community in my chair and having the time to have actual substantial conversations with everyone. And so these past few weeks, I've been asking my clients their thoughts about the school board. And it is probably not a surprise to any of you here that people are having very big and very diverse opinions on the board. Some of them think y'all are heroes for working through all these hard problems. Some of them think we are all morons who've made the wrong decisions or can't make a decision, managed to make one at all. So there are lots of different opinions on this board, which I know you're familiar with. But for me, as like a reader, a good listener, an active community member, and a parent, I know that these big sticky problems will always persist. And I feel like the only way forward is through community and connection and not in entrenched positions. In this light, 3 threads kind of repeatedly came up with my clients these past few weeks, and I think they're worth exploring as you choose a board member tonight. The first is something I heard from many people who do not have children or a close connection to the schools. They don't follow what's happening in our schools and don't feel as though they have a reason to. I grew up in a really small town in rural Iowa, and I know firsthand that towns that don't tend to their schools don't thrive. The second thing I heard repeatedly from people who do have children, grandchildren, or other closer connections to the school is that they feel as though unless you have a personal connection to someone on the board does not fully consider your perspective. The third thing that I heard is that people are very sad at the deep divisions in our community that are coming to light in school board meetings. I realize that I probably do not check a lot of the boxes that many of you might be looking for to fill this vacancy tonight, but I am certainly no stranger to how small towns work. Along with growing up in rural Iowa, I spent much of my young adulthood in a North Carolina town that makes High Street look like Times Square. I do, however, think I have the perspective and curiosity to serve our community as a board member. I'm curious enough to ask questions. I'm humble enough to acknowledge my own shortcomings and open enough to know that different life experiences lead to different priorities and positions. I believe that addressing the disengagement, discouragement, and division that my clients have been talking about these past few weeks is really, really important to keeping our school district and our community healthy. I'm also willing to put in the time to learn the nuts and bolts of serving as a community member. In addition, I want to acknowledge that you all have a lot of great people to consider for this open position. Christy, behind me, is one of the smartest and most compassionate people I know. She knows the educational system inside and out, and she is a wicked good problem solver. Will, is back there as well, has a lot of experience running tough meetings smoothly and is a confident community member and a dedicated parent. Is it okay if I just say one more sentence?
One more sentence, that's fine.
I don't know the other candidates personally, but I certainly appreciate the institutional memory and community connections that Dr. Lindsay has. And I've heard that Mr. Bakken is both funny and direct, which can be great attributes for a board member. Thank you for your time and for considering me for the open board seat.
Thank you. Next is Will Harris.
She forgot to mention that I was good looking. Well, thanks for having me. And it's just fantastic to see, I guess, five candidates. That's great. Especially after everything that's happened the last year. I put my name in because I was worried there wouldn't be any candidates. And I felt like I owe it to Mineral Point. It gave me so much, growing up here. And as I put in my letter to y'all, just about all the advantages I've had in life, given my experience in elementary school and high school here. So I've got a lot to offer in terms of thinking about human resources and accounting and finance and those sorts of things. So I'm happy to lend my expertise to that. I'll add on top of that in my own, so I run a nonprofit up in Madison, and we have a board of directors. We made a big push for gender equity and diversity on our board last year. And it's paid dividends in a big way. And I think that adding a female candidate to your board of directors would be wise. And I think you'd experience the same benefits that we have at WCCN. Also, with Everett getting somebody who has been on the board both pre-COVID and during COVID and is going to have a really low learning curve makes a lot of sense too. But if I'm the person that winds up with this, I'll just put in my best effort and try to be balanced and fair and represent the community well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christy Johnston.
Hi, my name is Christy Johnston. I'm the resident of Mineral Point, and I'm a parent of a child who currently receives services in the district. As I stated in my initial letter, I've been in the education field for over 20 years. I began closely following the school board about 5 years ago when I initially became a parent because I know that decisions made today affect the children in the district for years to come. I have the unique perspective of both an educator and a parent. As someone who has worked with tight budgets, I know how hard it is to prioritize and make good decisions for the whole. If chosen tonight, I would commit the time and energy it takes to be an active participant, to listen to comments, different perspectives, and concerns from other board members, members of the community, and district staff. The best interest of children has been my focus for my entire career, and I would continue that focus as a member of the Mineral Point School Board. Thank you for your time.
Next is Dr. Lindsay. I believe he's on Zoom. Dr. Lindsay, if you want to
Can you see me and hear me?
unmute yourself and
Oh, unmute myself? Okay. I'm not muted.
hear you.
My computer says no mute. Can you hear me now?
Just barely.
I'll try to talk louder.
Well, hold on.
I'm offering my services as I think I can still make a positive contribution. I'm impressed with the quality and character of the candidates that have been submitted and happy to see them submitting their candidacy. I submit that I previously submitted on the board, worked on the board, and know how things operate and can continue to make a positive contribution, and I'd like to do so. I would like to be resurrected as a board member, and I would appreciate your vote, and that's all I have to say.
Okay. Thanks, Everett. I mean, just in summary, I think he said that he understands how the board operates. He'd like to make a positive contribution. I think he used the word resurrected.
I think I heard that.
Yeah, that was about it. All right. Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Next is Alan Schrank.
Evening, everybody. I'm interested in filling the current vacancy on the Mineral Point School Board. I have resided within the Mineral Point School District for the past 14 years and currently have one child attending the Mineral Point Elementary School. My background includes graduating from De Pere High School in 2006 and continuing on to Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, where I graduated in 2007 with a criminal justice law enforcement associate degree. I've continued on over the years with obtaining more than 1,000 hours of continuing education and further my educational growth and development, as well as teaching continued education within law enforcement to officers on an annual basis around the state of Wisconsin. If appointed to the Mineral Point School Board, my focuses will be making sure that the students are obtaining the highest quality in-person education possible in a safe, secure, and welcoming school environment. I am proud to reside, work, and raise my daughter within the Mineral Point School District and community, and I would appreciate your consideration being appointed to fill out the term of the current Mineral Point School Board vacancy. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Next is Sarah Sivru. Sarah, I never said your name out loud. Sivru, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Seabrook. A lot of you may not know me, and that would be because only 137 days ago, I cried happy tears when our plane landed at the Madison Airport, and we were finally able to walk through the doors of our new home here in Mineral Point. Nearly every day since then, I've been asked the question, "Are you from here?" I like to reply not so jokingly, "I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. There were just a few detours." Out of 421 school districts in the state of Wisconsin, I unequivocally believe that the Mineral Point Unified School District is the only public school district I would choose for my children. And I specifically did so as soon as the opportunity arose. Not just because my husband graduated from Mineral Point High School in 2003, or doing so had always been the plan, or the commute, if you can call it that, from our home to take my 4th and 2nd graders to school is ridiculously short. Rather, I believe at my core that MPSD truly is the heart of a small community that educates and inspires our students for a bright future in a big world. Now more than ever, student learning enriched by cultivating family, community, and business partnerships is imperative. In these unprecedented times, it is absolutely vital that the community feels their input is heard and they are able to take part in developing their school's culture. As a military spouse, I have volunteered with and worked besides people of all different backgrounds, beliefs, experience, and temperaments for more than 16 years. As a professional, I am dedicated to analysis of interpersonal needs, ethics, fiscal responsibility, and moderation. I love the Mineral Point community and personally seek to not only understand the varying positions of my fellow community members, I also feel an assured calling to unite our community in compromise while continuing to strive for excellence in education for our children. I pride myself on being flexible, open to discussion, eager to learn, and communicative, while also being decisive, moderate, articulate, and analytical. Given the chance, I would welcome the opportunity to bring a perspective to the board that I intend to result in thought-provoking, unifying, and respected response from the community at large. I'd like to thank you for your consideration, and it would be my pleasure to answer any questions should you have them.
Thanks, thank you. Okay, now any board member could ask any candidate or all the candidates any questions you might have before we proceed with voting. No questions? Okay. I just want to thank everyone once again for putting your name in. I mean, it really means a lot. And I know that, we don't look forward to this kind of a process, but it's kind of the dirty work we got to do to keep the board running. So we'll do our best. So go ahead, Andy.
Not a question, but just a comment. As I've been through this on this side and that side, is I would implore all of you, regardless of this result, to let the community decide, who may fill this term moving forward. The result between 6 votes and 1,000 votes may be different. And I think we have a great group of people to pick from here. It's difficult, but I think letting the entire district make that decision again this spring would be fantastic. Because this is a tough enough job for us, but I think giving everybody the opportunity to vote for you in the spring would be great. And last point is we've seen all of these names either in the boardroom or on communications from you. And it's great to have some people who are willing to get after us when we're either right or wrong, and then show up and put their name in the hat. So I appreciate that from all of you.
Amen.
Thank you.
I will echo what he just said, that last part.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, so, like Mitch said earlier, we have a chance to, decide by majority if we want to simply take a roll call, before we go into, kind of secret paper balloting. You know, I think that's probably in board policy, just in case there's like one candidate or just two candidates, something like that, if the board feels comfortable with a voice vote. But should we just go around the horn to vote yes or no, Mitch, or just,
Is
is there any desire to take a voice vote?
Or prefer to move forward with the written ballot?
What do you think?
I prefer to move forward with the written ballot.
Okay, agree. I'll agree.
Okay. So there's no majority preference to do it by a voice vote. Okay. So now everyone will take one ballot and please vote for either one candidate, or you can, by board policy, you can vote for none of the above.
You need to sign your ballot.
And sign your ballot and then fold it in half, and Angie will come back and come around and get it.
United, looking forward to this.
I think 4 of us.
Yeah.
Were there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Bob and
Yeah.
I were, too.
I forgot about it.
We come back.
Then, when we went through this process and Gary filled the seat, Andy, Bob and I were all on the panel of, not selected candidates that night. So I guess I would make that comment too. Anybody who isn't selected tonight, please know that there are 4 members of this board tonight who have, been through this process, and 3 of them were not the successful candidate during that process and came back to sit on the board. So, don't let, if you're passionate about serving the community in this way, please don't be discouraged by whatever the results are tonight.
Absolutely.
So you got the 6 votes. So at this time, candidates receiving votes were Seaver, Cole, Lindsay, and Schrank. No one with a majority of 4 votes. So if you want to take your next ballot, and you would cross off Bodkin, Harris, and Johnston. So you should only have Seaver, Cole, Lindsay, and Schrank as possible options. If you wish to ask the remaining candidates any questions, you can do so.
You just say how many votes each candidate got.
Seaver was 2, Cole 1, Lindsay 2, Schrank 1.
That's for round 2.
That's for round 2.
What was wrong one?
Seaver 2, Cole 2, Lindsay 1, Schrank 1.
Okay.
So at this time, according to board policy, the board will adjourn to closed session. So we will leave the meeting up and running. And the school board will go to the boardroom for closed session where they can discuss candidates.
Okay. Thanks for your patience. Thank you for your patience, everyone at home and in the room. We are back in open session.
Remind you that Bakken, Harris, and Johnston are not eligible candidates at this time, so you can cast your next vote.
So the vote is for Cole, Lindsay, Schrank, and Seabrud,
Correct.
or none of the above.
Or none of the above. Okay. Congratulations to Sarah Seabrud. The vote was 6-0.
Well, thank you.
Jump into the fire with us.
Sarah, if you'd like to
My
come-
life decision.
if you'd like to come forward, you'll take the oath of office then, and then you can join the board for the remainder of the meeting. For those of you at home, Sarah Seabrud was the winner of the majority of the vote by the board for this round of election.
I, the undersigned, having been appointed on November 15th, 2021, as a member of the school board of the Mineral Point Unified School District, but having not yet entered upon the duties thereof, hereby certify that I am a citizen of said school district and swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Congratulations. Welcome. Okay. You ready? All right.
You betcha.
Just because of timing, we added a few things to the action items for this special meeting. Mitch, do you want to talk about the first one, approval of support staff hire for the elementary school night custodian?
Yes, we put this on as a placeholder, hoping that we would be able to bring a candidate forward tonight. I would ask that you make a motion to table this until the December board meeting. we have a late applicant and we would like to bring a couple of people in to discuss this position. So we're not prepared to bring a recommendation yet tonight.
Okay. I'll take a motion to table this approval to the December regular board meeting.
I move that we table this position for the December meeting.
Okay, any second?
I'll second.
Okay. Eisner, Skelding. Any discussion? Mitch, I had a thought that we had gotten in the habit of having a closed session on the agenda for any hire approvals in case we wanted to discuss the candidate. So if you have an actual candidate for the December meeting, if we could
Yep.
make sure we have closed session to
Yeah.
discuss that, if the board would like to take advantage of it.
Kind of has to be consistent.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my fault. I didn't mention it for this meeting. I should have. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, Angie, roll call?
Eisner,
Call a question?
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Seafood,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes,
Dunn,
Yes. Okay, next is approval posting for a long-term sub and nursing assistant.
This came out of some conversations that we've been having, try to help alleviate some of the stress, some of the subbing issues that we're having, especially at the elementary school. So we would look for the long-term substitute position to fill at least the minimum of number of weeks now escapes me, but we have a professional development workday in February. So it would be not quite 60 days. Hopefully that gets us through this surge, that this individual would be employed every day. And if it's a sub in a classroom, we would have somebody already available to take the first sub position. If there's not a need for that, then they would be able to sub in for teachers to allow them to work with students, either one-on-one, small group, provide some supervision opportunities, but then we would know that we have this individual for that period of time. And I don't have a candidate, but would like the opportunity to post that position. We can use some of our ESSER funding. Sorry. ESSER funding for that position. The same thing would be true for an additional nursing assistant. If there's an opportunity to provide additional nursing services, I have reached out to Southwest Tech and their nursing program and trying to communicate, is there somebody that might just be graduating that would have that RN certification and not yet have a job somewhere. So again, this position would be helping the district out, and it's monies that we could take out of our ESSER 2 round of funding.
So is this two separate postings? Is this a long-term sub and a nursing assistant? Or is this a person to be a rover and do both of those two?
No, it would be two separate positions.
Thank you.
Quite a few schools are going to a full-time, long-term sub, correct?
Correct.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I know some districts close by hire somebody that is in their building year round, and if they have multiple buildings, they have them in that building. Mr. Renwick, you'd like to add?
Yeah, just to, what Gary is saying,
Matt, can you come up a little
Oh,
bit just
sure.
so people at home can hear you?
yeah, I did survey, there's just an online community of principals and 13 schools responded, 11 of them have at least one long-term sub. The other two would like to have one, but cannot find one. So if this person, let's say they don't have a sub position, but they've got one classroom with 6 kids virtual and 8 in person, then this long-term person can work with the virtual kids and vice versa. So there'll always be something for them to help them.
I'd be okay making a motion to post for the long-term sub position.
Okay. I'll take a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on the long-term sub position?
How do you anticipate the pay for this position to be in comparison to the daily sub rate?
It would be in our handbook, there is a daily rate for that long-term sub position.
Okay.
And we would just apply that rate.
Okay. And right now, how many days, and if you could just give me kind of a percentage, how many days are we bringing in at least one substitute teacher?
We haven't had a day that we don't have a sub. We haven't had a day that we don't have 5 subs
Okay.
In the district?
in the district. We haven't had a day that we haven't had 7 subs. I think is our lowest.
Jeez, Ange.
In the school.
Do you have a contrast to, pre-COVID, what it looked like as far as subs? Was it, I mean, obviously not as,
Yeah,
Intensive.
so this probably started and it's I don't know, it's definitely gotten more like this time of the year in October, November, December of 2019, we had a huge spike in need for subs. And I feel like that's where we're at right now with the need for subs. And the lack thereof, that's the other thing. There aren't as many, for whatever reason, subs. So pre-COVID, to answer your question, there would be days when we didn't have subs. There could be maybe 4 or 5 throughout the week. There could be 10 throughout the week. Various reasons as to why we had subs though too. There were conferences, school business. Right now we've got subs coming in for other coverage reasons. So
thank you.
Is this position exclusive to the elementary school building, or will it be located wherever the need is greatest?
We would try to make it exclusive to the elementary school at this point in time.
If there wasn't a need at the elementary, I can't imagine there wouldn't be, but in that scenario, we'd be willing to, have that person go up if they're short of it.
and we have several subs that go either way.
And are you targeting any of your, do you have any current long-term subs that in your mind you're hoping would look at this as a way to continue their temporary employment with?
We have one currently. We would certainly make them aware of it. We would make all of our subs aware. We just post that we're looking for a long-term sub. A lot of times it's it's a maternity leave that someone's out. So this wouldn't be uncommon for anybody that's in the sub pool, somewhere saying, hey, I'd be interested in, then I know at least I'm going someplace, the same place 5 days a week. So it is a benefit to someone in the sub pool as well.
So just to be clear, Mitch, so this is a 60-day position?
Yes.
It wouldn't be till the end of the school year.
Right now, correct. That's what I would be asking for, is a 60-day position to be reevaluated at that time.
Okay.
Do we have ESSER funds if it was determined that we should go to the end of the school year?
Yes.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, Angie, call the question.
And this is just for the long-term sub, is that
Correct.
correct?
Posting the
Okay.
position.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Seabrug,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is the nursing assistant. Now, Mitch, just for clarity's sake, this is an RN position, or is this any type of nursing license?
We would be looking for an RN.
Okay. And is this a full-time position?
When I reached out to Southwest Tech, it's been an email exchange. I've not had an opportunity to discuss potential candidates. I don't, if this is, we would like to put somebody out, 4 rounds or for, help me, doctor.
Testing?
For the term.
Oh. For rotations?
Rotation, thank you. That, we're not looking for that. We don't want it to be somebody that could be here 1 day a week for 6 weeks. We're looking for somebody that can be here if at a minimum of at least a half a day, 5 days a week.
Half a day, 5 days a week. So
At
that would be,
minimum.
that would be part-time.
Correct.
So you would post it as are you looking for approval to post it as a part-time position or minimum part-time up to full-time?
Correct. That's what I would be asking for.
And was this the same 60-day length or?
We could certainly put it that way as a 60-day window. That would get us to basically February. That would get us to February 25th. If we could start the 1st of December, that would get us to February 25th.
So I don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse, but we know that we need to revisit a whole lot of protocols. We committed, amongst other things, to revisiting those once vaccine access was an option for our younger students. I'm optimistic that our needs will go down even before the middle of February.
Well, I would just say this, we were told by the nurse herself that once these elementary school kids got vaccinated, that a lot of the problems will go away. So my question is, how am I supposed to sit here and support this when the nurse is saying the problem's going to go away now that the shots have been started to be given? That was just said last Monday.
On the other hand, I think we just had a positive case today in the elementary school. So the question is, what was the impact of that? How many kids are being held home because of it?
Right. I mean, I think to Sarah's point, I mean, I think we need another nurse yesterday, right? But I think, do we need one February 25th or even February 1st? I think we could debate that. But if we had the capacity to test all these kids according to the protocol, we'd have everyone be in school, But the reality is, I mean, we all know that the whole country is having a hard time hiring nurses right now. But I think this is a unique position. It's part-time. It's school hours. So I'm not saying we couldn't get a candidate who maybe is burnt out in the hospital and is full-time and wants to go to part-time, so I think there's a chance there. Mitch, does it have to be an RN according to policy, or I know the school nurse has to be an RN.
Correct. And I think depending on what you're asking, what role this person is playing, I think you'd be better served with an RN than any other kind of a certification, but you can certainly look into being something,
I think the advantage of it being an RN is that an RN can provide medical advice. So they can call a parent, talk about a sick kid, and actually, give medical advice that's not based on any kind of protocol or a doctor's protocol or anything like that. So there is that advantage of you could let an RN independently do some work in caring for kids and doing first aid and all of that, whereas other nursing licenses are a little more restricted and have to kind of follow a protocol, which is still doable, but it's, I was just thinking, it would have, if the board feels like there's a need for this, would it be better to open the candidate pool a little wider by being open to various licenses, but I think if the district's recommending an RN and the school nurse is recommending an RN, then we can see what we get. I think that would be okay to start. Yes.
I guess my only question is the last time we talked about bandwidth, I mean, has the role itself been looked at? Like, is there things we don't need to do in this short term until cases go down where we don't need to hire somebody? I mean, if we hire a part-time person for 60, 90 days and then we let them go, is that fair to that person?
As long as they know going into it, I think it is, especially like you said, there may be some nurse who doesn't want to work at the hospital anymore, somewhere. Or in a doctor's office because of things. And I'm wondering if there's like pent up demand for a school nurse too. Like we had the social emotional learning discussion last week. Is the school nurse a way, since we know that there has been increase maybe in anxiety and other issues, is a school nurse another way that another person that kids could feel comfortable going to get help, to ask questions that then they could move on to the counselor or something like that? Is it just another person maybe someone could talk to right now? Even outside of COVID, just.
Well, here are my thoughts. To answer your question, and if you, and I think you know what I'm saying, but if obviously part of the burden on the school nurse is the testing, right? So, if we, and again, like we talked about, other schools don't offer in-school testing, which means, close contacts are quarantining at home. And other districts are shutting classrooms down. It's happening. Just happened yesterday in Dodgeville. So, but if we're able to test, we're able to keep more kids in school. So increasing testing capacity would help. But let's say that we decrease testing, or with more vaccinations, 6 weeks from now, there's less testing. With cases going down, there's less testing. You're still going to have, it's still going to be winter. You're still going to have sick kids. And I know Nurse Lindsay is still backlogged on just like routine nursing things, like care plans for, kids with medical needs, and, educations for kids, and catching up on immunization records. COVID has been just dominating her time. And if we can take some of that load off, I think that would be worthwhile if we could find someone. Now, I think if this weren't budget neutral, I think I would feel differently, but we have access to thousands of dollars of money devoted to help schools navigate through COVID and implement COVID protocols per CDC guidelines, because they know that testing and tracing and keeping track of sick kids and all of that is, distancing, all the things we have to do to try to keep our schools safe is taxing on the school. And if we can use these funds for this short period of time to help as a pressure release valve for our hardworking staff, and for, to help get these kids back in school, so that, parents aren't having to scramble as much for their kids, and we can minimize the amount of virtual time. I don't see the downside unless you could convince me that this is a slippery slope. Like, if we hire someone for 60 days, that means, next thing we're going to be actually going to have 2 nurses for next year. And I don't see that just really becoming a major issue. You know what I mean?
And your point's fair about it being budget neutral. I guess as we walk into our finance meeting, I think we need to set the precedence that if headcount's being asked for, we are showing, here's what we did to look at increasing our bandwidth. Like, I would have to do at work. I don't just get headcount automatically. I think we need to do a better job at, here's what we did to justify that count. Here's what I did to try to improve our bandwidth. not just I'm overworked,
Okay,
some kind of analytics to it.
okay. So are you suggesting that the district hasn't done anything to cope with our issues with implementing the COVID mitigation plan?
We were in here like a month ago in a closed session. We talked about the role itself and like, let's look at things maybe that role shouldn't be doing at this moment to free up bandwidth. It just didn't feel like anything was done after that meeting.
Okay. I mean, do you want to talk about what's been done to help expand our capacity to
Do we have,
implement this
is there a
protocol?
is there a motion even on there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
There have been additional trainings to have additional people to test, to perform the test itself, which isn't labor intensive. It's the wait time. Once the test is administered, it's the wait time then, but then it's everything that goes on after the fact. I mean, I could provide the swab, but I'm not the one putting it in the website. I'm not reporting out positive or negative test results. I'm not contacting parents. If there is a positive, I'm not the one doing the close contact tracing. It's building level principals with the nurse that's going into the classroom, all those kinds of things. So I mean, to actually administer the test, we can certainly cut back on it. The other piece that has been discussed, but not pushed forward at all would be to change the protocol, as you were talking about, if we don't test until this day, that certainly would relieve some of that burden of the testing and the reporting and everything else that goes on. Other districts' protocols are, if you're positive and you're now close contact, some districts do absolutely nothing. I know of one district that does absolutely nothing with that. Other districts that everybody is now quarantining at home, and if you wish to come back to school on day 7, you go somewhere else to get the test. The school district is not providing that service. You have to go to, I think UW Platteville does some testing, and there's a couple other places that will do testing and get your responses back. But those districts are saying, no, you're just out until you go somewhere and get that negative test.
So over the last month, how many staff, admin, nurses, how many people in the district would you say were doing testing on a given morning across the district?
There's probably a minimum of 2 to maybe 4 at least, depending on the two buildings, because you're testing students to start that school day. So a lot, there'll be kids that'll come in here to this building that'll be here 6:45 or 7:45 to 8, I want to get tested so that I'm ready to go by first hour. Mr. Renwick?
Yeah, you have at least 2 people working, one to keep the kids flowing, and then to Jane or whoever's running the test to actually administer the test. But then there's, keeping track of, this is your test kit for you. And when it was really high, we had 4 or 5 people in the office. Angie Klein was really involved, and Jane Barr.
Do we still have volunteers too showing up here and there, nurses?
Yes and no. We have made an arrangement we've offered to pay them $20 an hour for their time here. So we have one individual that, when they're available off of their work schedule, will try to give us as close to an 8-hour day as they can. The other one will give us, maybe 4 hours here or there. And again, it all revolves around their work schedule.
And these are both full-time nurses, correct?
What's that?
These are nurses that have full-time jobs.
Correct. Yes. So they originally reached out and said, hey, on my off day, I can come in and help. So we have made arrangements to provide financing for them for their time.
How many hours would you say, both volunteer and paid, that those 2 nurses have provided the district? Ballpark.
total. It would be. I would say on a weekly basis, we're probably getting in the neighborhood of 25 hours
From those two nurses.
from those two nurses. Again, one is when they can be here, they'll be here for 8 hours. But again, it's
variable.
if they have a need at home or whatever, then it's, they know that they're not our employee. So, they take advantage of the fact that they need to be somewhere for their family, and we certainly encourage that to happen as well, but. Oh, yeah.
So that's like the information. I think it's good to know that stuff to make these decisions.
Absolutely.
I also feel like there's a couple factors in play in that we're talking about the previous meeting, really hoping that there would be a shift once the elementary school kids were vaccinated. When that also was allowed to play out, then treating unvaccinated and vaccinated the same. And how realistic is it that there's going to be this type of vacancy filled prior to either of those coming to fruition?
I think those are both fair questions.
I guess that's my question concern. Is this the position we would fill with a special meeting as soon as we had a candidate? Or would we wait until December 13th? Which at that point, we may be discussing protocol changes. We may not need to pay 2.6 nurses a day.
Well, my question after the last board meeting to Dr. Dunn was, do you have RNs that work in your office? And do you know of any RNs sitting at home waiting for a phone call to say, hey, I've got a job waiting for you? To points that were made earlier. My own daughter is an RN, is a traveling nurse, and she does not hurt for future employment because places need nurses. There is a demand for nurses and not enough nurses out there.
I think my concern, Andy, is that not that this would be 2.6 nurses, but that the two nurses that are helping us out are really basically working overtime to help the district because they're passionate about the district. And we want to get them relief as much as possible. So I think they would probably stop helping as soon as they had relief. I don't think the intent would be to have 4 nurses in the district, on our payroll.
Do we have any assurance or hopeful assurance if we make this hire that we're not going to continue to send classrooms home? Is that the intent here, is to keep kids in school?
That's my intent. I mean, because a parent asked me this.
But that's what I think we need to decide, because
yeah, well, I mean,
we start paying 2 nurses and we're sending classrooms home.
Exactly.
Because we can't test. We're going to have some answers for that.
That's the number one reason why we're doing this, and because that's the reason why we're doing in-home quarantine right now, because we can't keep up with the testing, right? So, I mean, I think like I said, I think there's other duties that Nurse Lindsay can be assisted with, even if the testing protocol changes. But I think to your point and Sarah's point, let's say we post it theoretically, let's say we post it now, and then at the December regular meeting, we still don't have a candidate. Should we revisit it and decide to no longer post it or remove the posting? You know what I mean? Should we at some point stop looking for a candidate if we determine that it's no longer needed anymore? I think that's a very reasonable approach if we don't find any candidates by the regular meeting.
At that point, to Justin's point, there might not be a need for that additional person if those protocols change, and that relieves that burden on that position.
And if not, the clock would already be running on the 60 days. I mean, I think if it keeps the classroom in class for just a day or two, it's worth it. I mean,
So practically speaking, who would this role report to? Who provides daily supervision and work direction? And do we have, I'm just thinking that the current school nurse has her plate full. She doesn't need to take on additional supervisor duties. So is there a plan in place to manage another nursing resource?
That would I think that would be dependent on who gets hired, if it's somebody that's just completed their program through Southwest Tech, that's an RN, and here's your first opportunity for a job, we can employ you right out of the gate. They can work together as partners, but right now Jane falls under Angela Klein, the Director of Pupil Services. So that would be this new position, that would be the boss for this new position. And it could be a split of, you're reporting to this building, you're gonna take care of this building, and the other one takes care of the other building. That could be, that division of labor can be worked out with Angela, kind of directing those meetings.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, if anyone's interested in a motion to post this
Make a
RN
motion
position
that
with
we
ESSER
post-
funds, you make a motion, okay,
Post the position.
there's a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, Bush, Janetka,
Could I ask you to consider clarifying the motion that if it is not filled by X date, we either revisit or withdraw the posting?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we post.
This would either require a special meeting or would be something that would come to your December meeting for your approval.
Let's see. My opinion would be if we have a candidate that we like, I would be glad to take a second meeting, extra meeting, special meeting, in order to keep kids in school or increase the likelihood of keeping kids in school.
so could I suggest December 13th for the regular meeting as a date that we
That would be a.
would revisit
if we have-
posting it
If we have not filled.
if we do not have a candidate?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to amend your motion?
So the motion is to post the position for a nursing assistant, a 60-day position, to be filled immediately. If the position is not filled, the posting will be reviewed December 13th at the monthly meeting to determine if we should continue to post.
You should clarify that it's an RN position.
The RN position.
Sorry, in the medical field, you say nursing assistant, it means a different licensure. Don't want to have any confusion. Okay, so Bob, you want to second the?
Yes, I
amended motion?
re-second that,
Second,
okay.
or second.
We'll continue.
Any further discussion, comments, questions?
Is it possible for us to give authority to just hire the position as well, if it happens?
Not without posting a dollar amount on the position.
All right, there's no, okay.
Yeah, I think if they have a candidate, we would have a special meeting to approve.
And this is totally funded by ESSER money.
Correct.
Because I know last summer, the question was asked, how are we gonna pay for all these employees we paid for with ESSER money once it's gone? And the answer was, I don't know. So that's not a good decision when you keep hiring people and you don't know how you're gonna pay them.
We're putting a very clear timeline on this. This is a 60 days.
Right, that's the only reason I would consider supporting this, is that there's a
And both these positions.
sunrise on it, sunset.
Disappear for 60 days and or only continue, if need be, would come back again for further approval for the end of the school year, but these are ESSER contingent positions as well, so they would go away as the ESSER funds go away.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, Angie?
Bush,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
Yes.
Skelding,
Yes.
Sullivan,
No.
Seabrun,
Yes.
done.
Yes. Okay, is that the end of the agenda?
No?
Purchase over 5,000.
Oh, purchase over 5,000, thank you, I knew I was wrong.
Our Title I funds, this is money basically given to us. We don't have much control over, it's based on student enrollments and some of the free and reduced numbers and different kinds of factors. We have a reduction in our Title I monies, and a request for some reading intervention programs that fit well within the ESSER qualifications for reading, or not reading, but learning loss and recovery. And I have a testing assessment kit and then 2 different components. Both of those components add up to over $5,000. But it is something that our reading specialist, Rachel Schrader, strongly supports and is asking for the purchase. It's over $5,000. Would have waited till the December, but if we can get it taken care of now, I'd like to get this ordered and want to follow board policy since it's over $5,000. It's coming out of the ESSER grant monies. So I ask that you approve that purchase.
What grades would this be used for?
Elementary grades. It's a
Pre-K
next step
through
guide.
5?
It's a next step grade guided reading assessment for K2. And then there's additional program Rise and Rise Up that support the rest of the elementary grade levels.
And does this replace the current assessment tool we're using?
We have an assessment requirement by the state. This assessment assesses the reading proficiency, the reading level within this program, and then directs a series of interventions around it. I think it's a scientifically proven program to provide support for our struggling readers, but it's different than the state reading assessment.
Is it something that the teacher elects to do across the board in a particular classroom, or how is it directly implemented?
Mr. Renwick?
Yep. So a classroom teacher could use it. We're looking, the assessment gets a little more granular, whereas the state assessment gives you like very, general results. This will give us more specific strategies the student needs to work on. And then the interventionist can then work with kids from, at this, what we perceive as this level of reading, that give them texts that are a little bit more challenging than where they're at, and then the proper support. But wouldn't be used generally in the regular classroom. It could be, but for what they're using it for, it's more pull out or push in for specific kids who need it.
Around specific skills.
Yep. I know Rachel Schrader and Kimberly Diefenbach have been creating some of their own interventions to personalize it for the kids. And it can be very time consuming. So these resources they would still personalize it to a degree, but these resources will save them a lot of time, I think.
Is this the first time an elementary reading interventionist would have access to a assessment tool?
No. They've used other ones. As we learn more about it, we're finding a few of these tools are not as sensitive to what we're trying to know about this student. It may be just like, for example, a phonics assessment, but that's just one part of reading. And so this might give us some information on comprehension, for example. So it's more tools in our toolbox, I guess.
So is it supplementing what you're currently doing to assess, or is it an upgrade from a previous assessment?
I would say it's more of an upgrade and a supplement. It kind of does both. This is a newer version, I believe, of this resource. So the publishers have come out with, an improved version of it too, just based on what we know now about teaching readers.
Okay, last question, sorry. So it's going to be paid for by ESSER funds?
Correct.
So that's a one-time expenditure, correct?
So there's no subscription involved in it.
So we just buy this.
You buy it, you own it.
Buy it, you own it. Okay,
And
so
then-
there will not be, we have to pay for this yearly
I don't believe so.
to renew it or anything like that?
I'll check with Rachel, but I don't believe so. They're physical printed kits. And then I think up to 20% of your expenditures have to be evidence-based tools to accelerate your kids, especially kids who who lost some ground during the pandemic. So this fits right within it.
So an appropriate use of ESSER.
Yeah, I would
Not
say
that we'd be looking at inappropriate uses, but
no, I would say it's falls right within it. We shouldn't have any
So
problem.
just to be clear, this purchase, approval of this purchase does not commit the district to future purchases
No.
and future budgets.
No. No, not that I know of. I'll check with Rachel just to be sure.
Okay.
But even, yeah, I don't believe so.
Yes, I don't believe it's a subscription,
No, it is not a subscription.
so it's not a yearly cost of this.
It's just printed material.
It's hard copy stuff.
I think there's a digital component to it, but it's part of the program. It's not, you don't keep paying for it every year.
Okay. Okay, and sorry.
That's all right.
So is this a kit that will last
Yeah.
a long time since it's finite?
I would,
Or, I mean, how many students can this help over how long?
You could certainly make copies
Yeah.
of the hard copy that you have to use for, as you go through.
yeah. So it'll have workbooks for the teacher, like a teacher's edition, and then she can make copies of this kind of an assessment sheet. So we're not having to buy, it's not like math expressions, we have to buy the workbooks every year, which kind of annoys me. But this is more of a, yeah, the teacher uses what she needs and makes the copies. So.
Okay.
Are you willing to entertain a motion?
Yes, please.
I move that we move forward with the purchase of the reading materials.
I'll
Second,
second.
second? Okay. Any further discussion?
I would just want to confirm that it's not a subscription, that there's no further obligation down the road, that it's a one-time fiscal
I
responsibility.
was wondering how we could
The request
specify
is
that.
not- The request does not have anything that says annual subscription to it.
Can I amend my motion to say contingent upon there being no subscription fee, no ongoing subscription fee? And then you can verify that tomorrow and don't have to worry about.
Sure.
Again,
How about no recurring fees?
no recurring.
Then that's
fees.
even more general.
Yes, more recurring fees.
I
Thank you.
will email the interventionist now.
Okay.
She responds.
Okay, is that acceptable
Yeah.
as far as approving it, as long as there's no recurring fees? Okay, thanks, Joni. Sorry, who's,
I think it was Andy,
would you second the amended motion?
Yes.
Okay, here comes Gary. Okay, good. Wouldn't want to vote without him. I know, we didn't have to wait.
It's good for you.
Okay, so Joni, you want to repeat your,
yes,
motion?
my motion is to accept the purchase of the reading materials with contingent upon there not being any recurring fees. And Mr. Renwick and Mr. Wainwright will confirm that before completing the purchase.
okay, motion second? Everyone good? Okay, Angie, call the question?
Eisner,
Yes.
Janetka,
yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Seafood,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, I think that concludes the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
everyone online.
Okay,
Oh.
welcome.
Thank you.